Hello, everyone. It's Kate Stillman with the Well Pro Show, otherwise known as the Wellness Pro Podcast. And I'm here with Elizabeth Stauder, who's been a member in Wellness Pro Academy for most of the past year. And it's been super fun to watch her develop the Body and Soul Sanctuary, which you can find at Body and Soul. And Elizabeth's background, it was interesting when we first started talking about this like really deep work, and her member cap, which is like the maximum members she'll have in her club, was like really low. And I was like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, because I do really deep work. And so it was a learning experience for me alongside Elizabeth to watch her as a somatic transformation coach, develop her club and work deeply with people with really, I would say, broken nervous systems, which maybe is a crude way of saying, maybe broken's not a good word, but like people who need some serious, deep safety and a held container in order to feel like they are whole. So Elizabeth, just give us a little bit of background of like, how did you get into your signature system work?
Yeah, I mean, technically I feel like I was early on initiated into it just because I've been a healer my whole life, following the shaman's path, on a depth journey, going on spiritual pilgrimages, etc. But it was all like just heightened by my near-death experience with the vaccine injury, the COVID Pfizer vaccine in 2021. I mean, I became like my own case study in a really, really intense kind of a way. And it was not enough just to like practice like the basic nervous system regulation stuff, but to go on a deep dive. I mean, the only way to, it was totally a depth journey, which is probably the reason why the people that I work with, I often catch them when they're enough in that to know that they need something serious and deep in order to shift to the, to move the needle. But yeah, and like my life depended on me learning to speak with my body in a very deep and attuned way and understand the signals, understand the symptoms, understand it, and especially to flip completely like this cultural programming about like, and it is funny you use the word broken. I mean, I was nodding because it's true, there's like something that's wrong, but like the idea that like something's wrong with me or that like I'm just like a faulty cog in the machine, but to kind of reframe that whole thing to like, oh, maybe this is actually an awakening about something that's broken in culture and that my nervous system is not able to like buffer or numb from that. And how can I take that mindset and then listen to all this pain and begin to transform everything, like taking the blinders off in a very radical way. So that was my personal version of then applying. I do have training in neuroplasticity through organic intelligence. I do have training in like the medicine wheel, vision fast, and like shamanic journey work, energy medicine, and those kinds of things. So I've always been interested in the combination of subtle body and like ancient medicine practices with like modern neuroscience and how that applies to like, literally changing the neural pathways and how to do that. So, but then when it came to me, I like took all of that and it became very, in a word, primal because it was like, cool, I have the tools, but it just took me out off the deep end beyond the clinical training into new terrain as well.
Yeah, I'm like, there's 5 places I want to go at once. Like, well, like one is, I just want to reinstate, like when culture's broken, because that's where I kept coming to with Body Thrive. It's like, we're radical. Radical used to be normal, right? It's just right now we're living in conventional habits are literally killing us. And then these vaccines that, may be safe for a lot of people are really not safe for another lot of people. A lot of that data's been buried. And it's hard. And anyone who's wondering that, you can listen to the interview with Dr. Stephanie Seneff on how the vaccine injury reporting got buried and continues to do so. Like, I think there's a little more exposure. And I think that this makes a lot of people really uncomfortable, just even talking about that the vaccines are unsafe. Like, I mean, most people that are on the left will take just have not really been exposed to the vaccine injury reporting. Where I've seen it come up is mostly from the holistic, because I work with wellness pros, and wellness pros are the ones that when people are sick enough and they can't get help, they're not getting help on the medications, there's really no surgeries for these vaccine injury type symptomology, they end up in the wellness pros. They end up seeing wellness pros, and then I work with wellness pros, so I get to hear tons of it. Like it's normal on the pay out of pocket for recovery on something that may have been covered by insurance to get in the first place. But it is a topic that makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable. And I'm just kind of curious, as you do work with people that have vaccine injury, some people I've talked to with it, it's like they knew it right away. They're like cause effect. And then for other people, and I was vaccine injured through secondary exposure, which is like even more bizarre, right? Yeah. And even from what, like, you just sound like a crazy person in a culture that just assumes that putting mRNA technology into your physiology won't have side effects.
It's tricky because it is, the deeper that I went into the rabbit hole by necessity to heal myself, the more it just exposed the flaws and like profound ways that our culture thinks that are just normal. Even just you could look at the vaccines and you could look at things that are, even just the fact that there's lead in cereal and plastics in the water. And like you could look at the fact that there's just a lot of toxins that are causing stress in our physiology that then creates our survival responses, so that we're not just influenced by mental, emotional things around us. We're like actually being like sabotaged from within our cellular matrix, like on the daily. But then there's also just the fact of, and there's a place for this, it's an important thing, but a lot of times it's not about demonizing or right or wrong, it's about right set and setting and balance, and nervous system is all about knowing when to do what and how much and the right dose. And the fact that like Western medicine has become completely skewed towards suppressing symptomology, suppressing the innate immune system. And even if there was not a question about the vaccines being dangerous for other reasons or agendas, even if it was totally just a matter of like actually doing its job, still it wouldn't be actually appropriate for a large number of people to suppress their innate immune system as a measure to promote health. So,
amen, sister. Yeah, I think that's what I love so much about running Wellness Pro academies. I just get to learn from all the wellness pros, because like everyone's an expert and I'm a generalist, with subject matter expertise.
It's kind of like saying, there's a place, I see it as also paralleling the states that the nervous system holds, and they're all wise, right? Like we need to be disassociated sometimes, because if we're in chronic pain, we would die if we were feeling that level of pain 24/7. So our body needs to numb us and like be inflamed and be like, let's give you a buffer to like figure this out, so you can get to safety, find your resources, and then you can feel the pain, and then you can clear it and get back to baseline. So there's a place for numbing, there's a place for but our problem is that we're just like stacking more and more and more, and when that tries to start resolving itself, we freak out because we're so fragile, and we're like, let's cover it again, more and more and more, and we're just like, it's like this layers on top of these parts of ourselves that just need the space to process and metabolize, and safe spaces with other humans as well.
So let's talk about that. Like the whole idea behind a club is that like you're with other members that are invested, are committed, and that generates a posse, like it generates a community where we're maybe not all at exactly the same place, maybe, and we're also multidimensional, that in certain ways we may be stronger, in other ways we might need a lot more processing, but we're in a container where we're no longer isolated. Because so much of the Western medical model is like, you're so unique and special, I'll only see you one-on-one, and we're not really going to look at diet and lifestyle changes, right? We're going to look at how we can medicate in exactly the way that you just described. So like the club model is really different, where someone's actually they're starting to look for solutions. They run into a wellness pro, perhaps they run into you at bodyandsoulsanctuary.com, right? And they're like, this is great. I've had vaccine injury. I've been totally feeling like just isolated, not connected, afraid, right? At my core that I might not recover. No one gets it. Like everyone else out there is like, can't you just get better? I don't really want to, I don't really have time to, right? Isn't that
exactly the paradigm that we're trying to change? Even in the trauma healing world and trauma therapy world, where it used to be, let's just like heal this individual's trauma so they can get back on the conveyor belt of society and be a good worker, like get those symptoms back in line, and then they can like do the thing, and it's like, no, it actually, when you actually truly start like healing from within, you start to be one of those Socrates flies that are gadflies asking all the questions. Why? Wait, why do we do this? Why do we do that? And that's, not great for a culture that likes people to just follow the rules. So we need to also not feel crazy when we're waking up. At this point, I honestly don't see a difference between trauma healing and spiritual awakening. They're like the same path, which is the same as just also waking up to, and I don't really go down the rabbit hole of like society's evil or like yeah, sure, there's all that stuff, but it's more like, there's a growing up process, and like Carolyn Mace, the energy medicine, the great classic teacher of that, she talks a lot about an important like rite of passage that we go through as we're maturing spiritually, in which we have to become severed from culture think. Not because we're not meant to like integrate with culture and belong, but because we have to at some point do that break that all indigenous people knew and that sent their young adults out on the mountain to experience. Who are you as a being that is connected directly with source, who's not just taking in the information from parents and grandparents, and not just like the empty, what's the word, like that paradigm that like thinking is just being an empty bowl or cup that's filled with something, but there's something innate in us that wakes up that we need to remember. Oh, I think you're still there. You froze. But
Yeah. Dr. Bruce Lipton, many of you know as an evolutionary biologist, like he also talks about that, like the leading, like here's culture, that's the large mass, and there's always this group that breaks off, and then they start like a magnet to pull other people who are breaking away. So it's like, in this case, I know I'm kind of harping on vaccine injury, but there's a lot of other ways. The iatrogenic disease, that you work with people with iatrogenic disease, which is where you've been somewhat harmed by not necessarily vaccines, but other things in the medical system. And then just people with severe trauma, that there's, when people start to break off from the mainstream culture, like having that magnetic field of people who actually know the next destination. We know how to get here.
yeah,
And there's other people like you who are coming, like, and that can just feel like such in itself, like in Ayurvedic language, like that.
yeah, and
That's first chakra. That's second chakra. First chakra is like, I deserve to be me here with whatever's going on right now. Second chakra with like, it can actually feel good. And because second chakra is based on connection. And a lot of people are associating this with sexuality, but it's so much more deeper than that. And like the child comes out of the womb. That's second chakra. Like when a mother is nursing, they are one. And that calms both of their nervous systems together, and they co-regulate breathing. And a lot of, it's like when we start to really get that, like, that's all womb, like that's all second chakra. And like, I deserve to be with other people who can feel me.
yes, and that never stops from birth to death. We need to feel that, and that's actually one of the things I believe is like most broken in our culture, is that like severance from womb space energy. And so even without all the understanding or doing any of the actual work around particular storylines, like just being in a space that is coherent, that holds that womb frequency of belonging, honestly, that's like, I call that the soil. Like in my model, we like start with building the soil, which is the nervous system, and then we work through everything else. And without that, you can't do anything. In fact, like everything just emerges from that space. And that's what's so beautiful about this model working with trauma too, is the definition is actually that trauma is unintegrated resource. So it's not something that was like weaponized against us or a problem. It's actually that like we got severed from a resource for some reason, something happened too quick and not the right way. And so we just got disconnected from that womb space energy or that deep belonging. And so healing trauma is not about hashing out what was wrong, but it's actually, how can I like find my way back to that piece that I got cut off from. So it's very much, I like liken it to shamanic soul retrieval as well, because I think that's essentially what shamans were tapping into when they were doing that work, is this like something was severed and we just need to find it again. Because once those wires start talking to each other and pulsing, and it's like, and then it's like all the unhealthy stuff just sheds. You don't have to fight it, you don't have to do anything with it, it just kind of falls away, because it's like it's not needed anymore. Everything's coming back together again.
It reminds me of like the studies on remission with cancer, with like there's always the looking back at it from the place of remission. That was the biggest wake up call. I needed to make changes I wasn't making. I missed 25 warnings, like there's a lot of similarities in that. And it's like, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be me now. And then there's gratitude, right? Like I'm way more whole than I ever would have been had I not been pulled into the to the death journey.
And that's so common for everyone to miss the 25 or 100 warning signs because we're not growing up in a culture that teaches us to notice those and helps like walk us through that initiatory container of how to respond. So it is, it's quite profound, and it really does feel like, I mean, I really think of like waking up in the outside of the Matrix or something and like breathing fresh air and being like, oh my God, wow, didn't even know I was walking in that until I got to the other side, and then it's just like looking back like, oh my God, whoa.
It reminds me of the first time I really experienced that. I was 16 and worked for Student Conservation Association in the wilderness. So I went from like full on suburban, just like face down in like suburbia culture. And then I was like 100% in the woods, 10 miles from the nearest dirt road, just the stars, 7 other human beings. And when I came back, I was like, WTF, and like it all started from there. Like for me to then, go through the whole thing and into primal so hard, it's like that pathway, right? And you're creating this pathway in body and soul sanctuary for people who are feeling that sense of, I don't know how to navigate, like reality is not on my wavelength right now. So just talk a little bit about the process of someone coming in, because often we've been trained to, I want to work with my holistic practitioner, my wellness pro, or my doctor, or whatever, one-on-one, and this is, my story is too intimate, I don't do well in groups, and yet they need the connection in the container.
Yeah, well, and because I work with people who are coming in with that kind of trauma, I do really create an attuned space with a lot of permission to take your time, because healing should never feel forced. It's an invitation. But there is like a strong encouragement towards the recognition that like when it feels safe to sort of be vulnerable and allow, and at first it's totally fine to just witness this for yourself. And that's why we do a lot of meditations too, because a lot of the ahas are happening when we're in a meditation. So it's not even like people are looking at you. It's like you're literally just, we're together in a coherent field. We're tapped into source. We're allowing things to start to reveal themselves and to soften places of the subtle body and to wires to connect, or things that have been too like glommed on to like differentiate, whatever the directions are that are needed. And so it's fine to just like start to be curious, and we're very titrated about the process, right? Like one of my teachers would say, like, conscious ability to say something or speak something is actually like the last step in your trauma healing. It's like the glacier under the water. Like we're working under the water, and then it's like we're finally like at the last 10% when we're like, blah blah blah, this is the thing that I'm healing, and it's like this, and I can name it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, there's so many people I talk to, they're like, they're in it because they're like they're just not linguistic. Like they're just like, I don't have words. Like I used to have words. There's no words.
And our culture teaches us that everything should happen in the prefrontal cortex and our analytical brain, and it's completely chopped off all of the wisdom of the lower, like the limbic brain and of the right brain and of sensing, feeling, knowing, cognizance that is prior to linguistic or analytical capacity. So, but there is training the muscle of speaking and being heard and listening in a group and not needing to know what you're going to say or how weird it sounds. Or it's okay that like the meditation was like, why did it look like that funny thing? I don't understand why that showed up. It's like, it's all good, and it's very like Jungian and depth psychology in that kind of way too. It's like that's how we know we're actually getting into the subconscious, which is where we can actually rewire something. If we're just in the conscious mind, it's like moving around the furniture, but the house is staying the same. If you really want to change the foundation of the house, you have to get into the subconscious. And that means getting really comfortable with like not having things like all perfectly like expressed. Just getting better at just sensing, feeling your way. Yeah.
I mean, one thing I've seen in both Club Thrive and Club Hero is like the first thing new members notice is other people being vulnerable together. And they learn that from the more advanced members. And it's a sort of this immediate experience. And for people that are really not used to it, it's very disorienting. It's like, I've never experienced people, being vulnerable and open together, and how much, and it is so visceral, right? It's not, it's like it's in the feeling space between us. And there's something about that especially people weren't raised in an environment where that is possible. It was funny, actually, what's coming to mind is like, Indy got in trouble. I have a 17-year-old. You should get in trouble. Like, to me, that's good, right? That's a sign that we're on the right path. We're starting to individuate. And I knew her father, my husband, was like having a lot of emotions about, like, was really in it. And he's not very verbal. And so we sat, it was really cozy. Like, we sat in our bedroom that next morning after the incident. And he was sitting in the chair, and she and I were in Winston and I's bed. And I was like, let's just talk about how we feel. And we'll just keep talking about how we're feeling. And there's no rights or wrongs. We're just going to keep kind of circling around. And it took like an hour and a half, and a lot of things were felt and said and shared. And, I mean, that's such a, for people that aren't like raised like that, like and that's sort of like a club, it's kind of an inside club member experience in what we're teaching in WPA, of like this, really the power of a committed group of people who are, in their healing processes together, can get to experience.
Well, it's an important point about the container and the set setting, because part of the issue with why I believe our culture is so disassociated is because we have such a backlog of intense feelings and experiences going on in our bodies and in our nervous systems, that if it was just to get like poked open, it would actually be quite dangerous. Like, to just have a cathartic experience, it could be re-triggering of trauma. It could also lead to, ironically, like, violence happens the most for people who are the most repressed, because it's like no one's actually helping them process it, and so then it comes out in all crime and all the things that happen. And so all the more reason why we need very, like, safe initiatory containers that are like, there isn't fear of the person's fear, or anger or judgment of the person's anger or judgment, or shame about the person's shame, or embarrassment about their embarrassment, or whatever, but like that ability to kind of hold that witness capacity, which can only really be done from someone who's been in the depths with those things in themselves. They've learned that they're not going to be like eaten alive by them, but they can actually befriend them, and that it's safe to feel them. And that takes a lot of core power, strength, and also knowing like how to be like, wait, don't go that way, because if you go too far that way, it's going to actually like overflow a little bit. So like, it's actually like learning how to walk. It's like learning how to be with emotions is like learning how to walk. It's like a whole language, and there's like a way to do it that's safe, that's right on the edge. It's not too much. We talk about Kaizen and titration, we talk about in somatics. It's like, if you try to go too far too fast, no harm, no foul. You fall and scrape your knee if you're learning to ride a bike. So don't be too afraid of that. But there is like an art to like feeling that healthy like dopamine and the serotonin, and the ways that the neurochemistry starts to tell you, that was the right amount of courage and like eustress in an emotional way for me to go into that experience. I feel like I accomplished something. I feel different on the other side. Now I can chillax and be like, who am I now? I'm stable, I'm still safe, I'm still intact, and I'm a little bit more expanded, and I'm a little more vulnerable. Holy shit, that was amazing.
And then it's like, again, right? Like this like yasa in the Yoga Sutras of like the repetition of like learning the skill that you're teaching. So in Wellness Pro Academy, you create your own curriculum. Like, we really do believe that every Wellness Pro is a creator and has a system within them. And for some people that's harder than others. And people can plug and play if they need to, or if they want to, or if that's just better for them because of, there can be other reasons for that. But for you did create your own system with body and soul. And do you want to just talk a little bit about that process and, and how it's working?
I'm experiencing it in real time for the first time, and it's amazing because I'm practicing one of the things that you teach, which is like a better.
Oh, think big, test.
Yeah, test. Basically, or just like basically doing it in real time. There's a term for that in the trauma therapy that I learned as well, which is throwing your hat over the fence, which is like, if you have a dream and you're just trying to gear up to do it, like just throw your hat over the fence and then you have to go get it. You force yourself to take the action to go retrieve it. And I feel like that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm doing really well. I'm actually really impressed, even though I feel like I'm like, like I'm swimming in new waters. But also, like, I think the reason that I feel so much trust in the process is because I feel like it's being transmitted from these systems, you know, just like whether it's Ayurveda, whether it's like the wheel or the medicine wheel in Native American symbology, whether it's like Bill Plotkin's work of like the soul and mapping, whether it's, you know, ecology and like basically the life cycle of a plant. Like there's these systems that are maybe like were come into existence from different people at some point that captured them, but that are coming from that like blueprint of nature, like that innate intelligence that we tap into when we clear the noise enough that it just filters through. And anyone who's had like a deep journey, whether it's a plant medicine or doing a rite of passage that's more in depth or like meditation, silent meditation or something, probably has experienced at some point that feeling of like, oh, when I get into that silent darkness that's no longer being pulled around by surface thoughts, it's actually not empty. There's actually something bubbling up from there that is, you could say, information, like quantum information from the universe, like what creates reality, you know? And that's how it felt, because I'd been seeing people one-on-one for a while, and I mean, I told you this when we met, like I literally had a dream, and the dream was like about me meeting a group of women in the dark and being like, I need help. And like they like helped me like get up and start moving, and then before you know it I was like doing whirly gigs in the air, and I was like, oh, I just needed some help to like do tricks with this stuff, I don't know. And then we had like our Future You call like a few days later, and I was like, oh, I think that's what this program is. So it was funny because as soon as I signed up, it was probably like within the first 2 weeks that I just got like, I couldn't stop the downloads. I was in the bath, I was trying to sleep, and it was like, oh, this is the curriculum, and it's going to look like this, and there's 12 steps, and blah, blah, blah. So I've just been plugging away. Like with my group, we launched in April, and I'm letting it not be too linear. Like it's going in sequence, but I'm letting each section take the time that it takes till I feel like our group is ready to move. So it might need to be 2 years before we do the 12 steps. I don't know. We're going to see where it goes. We're on step number 6, I think, right now. But yeah, it's like it's doing me at the same time as I'm guiding them through it. I'm like learning, and I'm having like my own personal life go through another layer of whatever that stage is on the curriculum.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like such this like behind the scenes benefit when we get out of transactional and into club annual recurring revenue membership model, is like we really design what we wish we had. And that's how it should be. Like we go 3 steps ago of like 3 stages ago in our own evolution. And it's like we design for that person who's not going to go through all of the Wellness Pro training that all the Wellness Pros have gone through. And you've listed a number of, you know, of trainings that you've done. Every Wellness Pro I talk to, it's like, that's usually where we start. It's like, how much have you invested? Well, guess what? Like your target client isn't going to spend $50,000 like trying to become a practitioner in order to solve, you know, what they're trying to solve for. So like, how can you create the best possible experience for them, knowing that right now they're at where you were 3 stages ago without all of your expertise. And then as a side benefit, we create what we need to keep doing what we know we need to actually be doing.
Yeah, it's this beautiful scaffolding, which is needed to counterbalance all of the dysfunction in culture. Yeah, it's like sometimes it feels like swimming upstream, but that's why I'm grateful to have found you and other mentors and other colleagues that are doing this, because it's like it gets easier the more that we see each other and support each other. Recognize that this is a big culture shift we're doing. It's actually quite a large culture shift that we're enacting.
Yeah, amen. So talk a little bit about that, about like being in a community of colleagues that are using the same business model, and just some of the like the difference between like trying to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, for me, honestly, it's mostly is for morale. Like at this point, like I feel like that what I'm teaching is so infused in me. Yes, it's good to have reminders of things, but it's like it's like, I don't know, like what's coming to me is honestly this beautiful, like almost like a past life image that came to me when I was in my 20s. I used to really enjoy traveling around to like ritual sites of like just indigenous lands around the country, like going and like sitting in the ruins and just like feeling the earth. And I went to, I think it's called White Mesa, like it's in Colorado, but it's like where they had the Kiva underground. And I like went in there and immediately was like, oh my God, like I feel like I remember being in here, whether it was this one or another one, and like doing some kind of ceremony and stuff. But the interesting thing was that what I was being shown that was so comforting was not so much that I had been doing the ritual, but that afterwards I had crawled out and into those beautiful cave walls where the like way all those little homes are like built into the cliffside.
Yeah, like the grottos or grottos.
Like imagine people like my family and other families like curled like up in our little like slits in the caves and like just like going up and curling and like going to sleep with like all these people in my like little community like in the cliff face. And I was like that is like such the most like soothing thing to my nervous system and my soul. It was like this like normalization. It's like, yeah, the ritual was just built in. It wasn't like this thing that's like done like way, out in some, faraway place. It's just like, yeah, we're doing this and now we're going to sleep and we're just doing the rhythms of daily life, and it's just so normalized. And I think that's what I need, because one of the things that our nervous system needs to grow is that feeling of being in an environment that encourages where we're growing toward. Like, you can't just muster that on your own. You have to actually have the signals. Like, we are not different than the bees and the birds and the fish that like have that biomimicry, and we're like always picking up signals from each other. So we need to be surrounded by other birds or fishes, humans that like are actually listening and moving in that same way. And if it's just us and we're like just surrounded by people who are like heads down on their phones and they're not listening to those movements, like it gets really hard and lonely. Like really hard and lonely. Like trying to carry a backpack full of bricks by yourself.
It reminds me of the term like manifest destiny and rugged individualism for the Americans. Like 7th grade textbook on like what made America great, and it's like such bullshit. I mean, there's like a seed of truth in everything, so I'll give it the seed of truth. But it's like we have this manifest destiny, but like I just kept coming back when I was writing on Inflamed to we are an ultra social species, to this study on humans and the degree to which we rub off on each other. When I'm often talking to wellness pros who they're holding themselves back from joining. They want to be in. Like they want to be in the posse, they want to be in a community of colleagues, they want to work on exactly what we do, which is like launch their grand offering and like learn the whole system behind it and how to make it work, and they hold themselves back. And it's this like really deep toxicity of I can figure it out on my own, which means they have to learn all the lessons learned by themselves instead of like humans. You and I both, like, we're so, I find with all the wellness pros and Wellness Pro Academy, like there's something that we intersect on. You and I intersect on a lot of points where we're like, we can just like rap and riff, whether it's like knowledge and like depth journey analysis or, somatics or Ayurveda or urine therapy or like you name it, right? And there's this sense of if I learn all the lessons myself, somehow there's like some badge of honor when like the bigger truth is that humans learn from humans. It's such a cool, and all mammals do learn, but other mammals are much more able to survive without a lot of embodied wisdom being passed down. Like if a cat has a litter of kittens, the kittens need that mama cat for like a solid 8 weeks, not like a solid 60 years, of like these multi-generational wisdom that just doesn't come through. Like if you're in your 40s and you're trying to figure it out and you're not hanging out with people that are older than you, that have already passed through the midlife phase, have already passed through a number of these various degrees, like they're not going to be as integrated. Like I'm going to send it to you. It was like the history of Baba Yaga mythology and like where, like the predecessor of the predecessor of the predecessor of like the wise witch.
Yeah, send it. Oh my gosh, I'm loving all the mythology. Actually, this morning I was like, I gotta find those poems I wrote at age 21 in Spain that were about the pomegranate and Persephone, and I found them and I was geeking out. Anyway.
Send them.
So good.
But yeah, but just that sense of like we have this rugged individualism. We have this idea of like I want to manifest. That's my manifest destiny. But I need to go it alone. I need to do it alone in the hard ways, and just as opposed to a community. Yeah.
Well, and I think I understand that deeply, and that was me for a long time. And so in the work that I do, we always find the silver lining of the coping strategy. We don't demonize it. And so for that coping strategy, it's actually the silver lining is like that's the thing that gave us the wherewithal to sincerely like like keep looking when culture said don't. So that can get us to a certain point in a certain way. Like that individualism is also that there's a healthy sort of, and in healthy development, you know, and this is where it gets really tricky. Other, you know, trauma therapists like Mate talks a lot about this, is that like there's different developmental windows in which different things are meant to happen. And so that womb consciousness and that deep like being breathed by mom is like so young, and that belonging. And then there's like age 5, 6, 7 and like where we're meant to develop autonomy. But the weird thing is like we actually can't develop that if we weren't given the first one. So we have this weird like relationship with autonomy, and that's where I think that hyper individualism comes in, where the healthy side of that is I feel safe, I belong, I can be authentic, I can be myself. And so now I'm gonna go off and like create and add like a whole new infrastructure to the culture. I'm gonna have my vision fast, and the community is going to welcome me and be so grateful for like this new information that I'm bringing and the new innovations that I'm bringing. And there's room for both safety and authenticity. And that's like a coherent individual, right? And so often those things get put against each other, and we're in these situations where we are missing components of both of those, or maybe we didn't get the safety, and so we started early like, oh, I'm just going to do everything on my own. And then like there's that feeling of like never really belonging. It's not safe to belong. I can't trust humans. My very early experiences with humans, which is the place I was supposed to feel safe, are exactly the place where I feel the least safe. And that actually is more of like a complex, like early childhood trauma, which is more complicated even than just having like an event or an injury. It's very complicated, and it takes a lot of like going back into those early states and having a new experience there until that like vulnerable part is like, oh, I'm feeling rocked and seen and safe enough that I wasn't at that age that I can actually like let down. And it takes a lot of work, but it can, yeah.
It's like, it's in Witch's Cancer Journal where I'm going through that. It's like long, yeah.
Well, and it can equally be the same. You know, other people had really good of that like early attunement, but then when it came to autonomy, they were kind of damped down on. They were not individuate. And so those are the people who like are scared to like go out on a limb and be unique, or, you know, like that. And so it's really the trick of like both, and that's pulsation, right? I know you talked too about how health is pulsation. It's like belonging and individuality, like source, like everything and unique me. And I love how I remember when I learned, I don't remember where from, but like, oh yeah, like the most realized spiritual people on the planet are actually the most like weird, wacky individuals. They're not like wallflowers. It's because they are so connected with everything and so uniquely individual at the same time.
Yeah, they contained the paradoxes, right? Like, yeah. Oh my gosh, I would love to do an analysis in Wellness Pro Academy of like the people that have a really easy time receiving the downloads and creating their classroom, from the people that are in that like just deer in the headlights, like how do I individuate? Like how do I not just teach the pattern, teach the system? How do I step outside the, you know, how do I find my own truth?
Well, and it's perfect because whatever the transformational container is, if it's WPA, if it's Body and Soul Sanctuary, or some other container,
Yeah.
providing the person the experience to rewire that,
Yeah.
whether it was their birth trauma, whether it was their early upbringing, whether it was peer trauma, school trauma. Well, I had lots of school trauma. I remember having like lots of dreams of being like knocking my desk over and trying to walk out because I was like, I don't want to do things in this way. But like the more that we can create the right amount of structure that creates safety with the right amount of creativity and flexibility that promotes that village that's like, yeah, we want your soul medicine. We want your unique you to come out, like show it to us. That's initiation, and that's sacred witness, and that rewrites the script more even than going back and like reliving it. There's a place for going back and reliving it, but in the model that I teach, it's like that's only necessary sometimes. A lot of times it's literally just creating a new experience, and then like in those moments where the old way comes and is like blocking it, with it, helping it reprogram, feel safe again, and taking it another step forward until your body and nervous system is like, reality can look like this now. Like literally improvising a new way of walking forward in the world.
It makes, I'm just totally an associative thinking here. So when it was like right before my New Jersey event. This was in, I think, 2022. So it was like fairly soon. So I had massive bleeding, had the radical hysterectomy. They found the tumor. I didn't do the radiation chemo. And I was in New York with like an extra day and on my way to do a members event in Jersey. And I was like, why am I here this extra day? And I woke up that morning and I was just like in tears. Which is very unusual for me. Those who know me would be like, for some people that's totally normal. It's not for me. And it was a very rainy day and I'm like, kapha outside, kapha inside. And I had a session scheduled with my coach who's like integral somatic. And I was like, I'm here to go to like my core trauma, like my birth trauma was like literally a half mile away. I was like,
wow, yeah, you're in the environment.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm being called to ground, like to my own like personal ground zero. And I get that not everyone has to relive the trauma, but there's sometimes a time and place where all of a sudden you're just, by then I'm like well on my way with like, I'd already written on
consciously, because some part of you is, like you were, you don't have to, I should say, you don't have to analytically like understand it all in order for your body to know how to do what it's doing.
Yeah. And I just, exactly. And it's that container, the listening. And so I just followed the journey. And I want you to talk a little bit more on initiation. What I found myself doing, as we can witness our own, especially I think the more experienced we are on death path, like we can just witness without judging like what's happening as we're going through a ritual, as we're going through, some of these rituals they're so ancient, they're so primal in us, and we're just watching ourselves act them out as I was that day. And I'm going to the hospital. I'm like, I want to just like go all the way into where I was separated from my mom at birth.
Treasure. Yes, that trauma treasure. Go get it.
And on the way, I'm like passing by this really cool jewelry boutique, and I'm like, I need adornment for this.
Like ritual adornment.
Ritual adornment. So I go in, and it's just me and this like absolutely like delightful shopkeeper with this collection, and I tell her what I'm doing, and like we just adorn me. And actually, I'm wearing the necklace right now. It's this mother of pearl, and I adorn, and I go into my like ground zero, which is like the waiting room of this hospital, and I act out this ritual for hours. And it's like I'm a little just kind of there's all sorts of things going on in this waiting room. There's people dying, there's people waiting for babies to be born, or there's people assisting people dying, there's people waiting for babies to be born. Like we're just in it. And it was so just that, like when we allow ourselves. So talk a little bit about initiation and what your members in Body and Soul Sanctuary, just like what you're seeing as you're both building. It's like we build the ship as we sail it kind of thing.
For me, like initiation, I mean, it's been around for as long as humans have been on the earth. Like it's something that somehow encoded in us. We understand how to reconnect to sort of the blueprint of the universe. And our physical bodies and beings have to somehow click into that and enact that, express that in some way to like reorder life, reorder our experience, and that's why I think it used to not be something that was separate, like a ritual. It was like life was that, like back when we were fully animist and primal and not colonized and all of that. Like now we do have to do that in order to sort of like almost like steer, like, I mean, I think of it almost like there's like a nature blueprint, which is that original blueprint, and you could call it soul. It's the fractal existence from which nature is encoded. It's how a tree knows to grow towards the sun. It's how our bodies know how to digest food. It's that. And then there's like the matrix over that, which is like the way that trauma and disconnect from that for various reasons has led to just coping strategies or ways of operating that are somehow not actually held in that. There's like trying to like skate above it, or like just it's confused. It's confused consciousness, you could say. So ritual, and in particular initiation, I would say like ritual in general is enacting things, training your attention, training your behaviors in a way to re-entrain to that natural blueprint, to that cosmic blueprint, right? And initiation is almost like where that has gotten to such a point that you take it on as an identity, and you are witnessed by people who see you in that. and recognize the maturity that you've gone through, the spiritual maturity that you've gone through in taking that on as an identity. And I would say that, you know, people think about initiation, of course, in like more traditional ways as too, like initiation into adulthood, into marriage, into first birth, going from maiden to mother to crone, like those are initiation portals, rites of passage, first bleed. And so it's an identity change. And I think it's a little bit complicated in this world where we've gotten off of that original matrix. So there's this component of recognizing identity evolution.
Yeah.
But also there's the deeper identity of being a being who is a soul and a being in the cosmos first and foremost, like a citizen of consciousness and of the universe and of the planet, and then humanity and culture and family and individuations, like all these layers of belonging. And so initiation is like where you step out of just little you into belonging in this wider universe, and then bringing that back and claiming it as an identity while in a body and being like, okay, now what? Now that I know this, now that I have this identity that's more vast, how do I operate as a body and a human in culture now?
Yeah, the next chapter, right? Because there's so much of like, who am I now? Like, wow, that was big.
Yeah, which is, I think, the best news for people who are going through hell or like a scary diagnosis or not sure if they're going to make it or like very, very ill, because our culture pushes those to the side. Or like single mothers or the elderly. It doesn't have to be a scary illness. It's like anything that's like not the like hyper independent, strong, masculine, like whoever, you know, advertisement. And so it's like, what if everything that we're experiencing, and I experienced this with my symptoms, what if all of this was like, if it's true that we belong to the cosmos and the planet, and if it's true what the original people said, that like our body is the soil, our blood is the rivers, what if our bodies are literally just showing us where we've gone astray as a culture and putting things to the side that need to be in the center, putting things out of place instead of that like healthy nature template. And so to kind of think like, okay, what I'm going through is a kind of shaman sickness, a kind of shakeup, a kind of like, let me show you how you're out of alignment so that you can get back into alignment, not as punishment. And there's a lot of that religious trauma too, or like just seeing it as like, I'm being punished, why is this happening to me? But actually, like, what if this is a stamp of initiation? Like, you are going to go through a journey, you're going to go through the depth journey, come out the other side, and you're going to be new and so much more like belonging to something so much faster than this culture that threw you to the dregs. So much faster, right? I mean, it's like so much, like, yeah, and I have clients who they're still so sick, they don't know how they're going to earn an income or get a job. And I'm like, okay, so this is wild, but right now, my income, every penny, is coming from this work that happened because I got sick and almost died. And I'm putting together the pieces of how I like walked through that. So the fact that you're in that means that your version of that's coming. I don't know what that version is, but you can make a life and an existence out of this that's so much more powerful than just trying to be a cog in the machine, trying to fit back in on the other side of getting your symptoms better.
Amen. And it's not just if you're already a healer going in. It's like you could be a lawyer, you could be an engineer, you could be a plumber. You know, it's
whatever your soul. Yeah, but you'll be so much more of an amazing engineer or plumber or teacher or male person or whoever you are. Like,
yeah, it's so much like why in Club Thrive, like I just honed in on sacred ambition, you know, and the sacred ambition assessment is it's like we're just gonna take whatever the ambition is as sacred and start there, you know, and it's
yeah, and it doesn't have to look like what society would classically put as a job label. It could be
it won't.
Parents are actually the number one like job of importance. It's like that's enough too if that's your calling.
Yeah, awesome. This has been super fun. I feel like won. Right. So I'm just going to reiterate. So bodyandsoulsanctuary.com. And if you go there, chances are you can end up on Elizabeth's calendar if you're curious about getting into Body and Soul Sanctuary and how that whole initiation into her club works. Also on Facebook, Entering Stream is the handle, all one word, Entering Stream. I love that. Yeah. Anything in closing that you just want to share, you know, whether it's about creating Body and Soul or being in Wellness Pro Academy and in the club business model.
I'm just grateful that there are structures, including by people like yourself, to change culture in these ways and to do it in a way that's like a creative and safe space for us to all remember our way back into what initiation looks and feels like. It's a very different way of leadership and teaching and healing and creating. It's not, let me tell you how. It's a like, I remember something that's innate to all of us, and I want you all to remember too, so that we can like do this together. And I'm just so grateful to be finding more and more people on the other side of my own crisis journey, like you, who are living that into culture.
It gets really exciting. Like, that's what I keep finding is like, oh my gosh, because then we become creative, right? Then it's like, let's all play and dance in our ideas, make idea babies, and these idea babies grow up into
idea fortification.
Idea fortification in a very safe playground.
Second chakra in the modern world.
Yeah, which only leads, I think, for me, and I'm thinking for a lot of people listening, like they really sense a lot. The Wellness Pros sense a lot of probably possibility in their own creative process in actually a business system. I know where I want to go with Wellness Pro Academy more, and I think Patrick was asking for this on the forum of like, boy, we all just want to learn more and more from each other, like what it's like to be truly in a collaborative, non-competitive environment, and how we all like, I just learned so much from everyone because all the Wellness Pros know something, and I'm like, fuck, I'm an idiot on that. Like, how did I not know? And none of us can know it all, right? And that's, I feel like the beautiful kaleidoscope or mosaic that we're all becoming together.
And I love what it brings out in people when we can settle down into that safety of like, oh, it's okay to not know, and it's okay to admit like I can really like gain something from this other person, and also the confidence on the other side of like, oh, I really do have something to offer here. Both sides of that are so important.
Yeah, I knew that from when you started engaging. I was like, oh, I need to clean up my act in a lot of ways and be a lot more, just like somatically aware and in touch and gentle. And so I really thank you for bringing that to me. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That touches me.
Because it's true.
And I love that necklace that you found during your ritual experience. Did you say New Jersey, by the way?
Jersey. Yeah, we did a Jersey Shore.
That's where I was born in Voorhees, New Jersey, actually. I don't remember.
I'm a Jersey girl. I'm Riverdale, born in Riverdale.
Oh my God. My dad's family is from there.
There's two women they're new in Wellness Pro Academy, and they're both from Jersey, the Shine Sisters. So we're looking for, shout out to the Shine Sisters. Yeah, amazing. You guys will have a lot to connect around outside of Jersey-ness around the somatic intelligence and somatic healing. So, yay.
Well, thank you so much. This was really great.
Yeah, you too. To be continued.
See you soon. Bye.
All right, you guys. Hello, listeners. So I have created for the Wellness Pros out there who listen to this show, the Wellness Pro Launchpad, and I'll get you in for free. Just go to wellnesspro.academy /launchpad, LAUNCHPAD, Launchpad, and then just fill out the form and we'll get you right into this school classroom in here. And in the Launchpad, it's really cool. Like, you get to see yourself as the hero in the path of the Wellness Pro, and then your client's transformation and A to B, and your vibe and your brand, your investment story, and design the journey for your clients, patients, or students, and then how to price from results. So these lessons are super short. They're each about 10 minutes, and you'll have a reframe on how to launch and scale the next phase of your wellness career. So wellnesspro.academy /launchpad. And then and on the inside, if you really want to launch, you can, like your next phase of growth as a wellness pro, then you can talk to me. See you soon.